Greetings, good people. My name is Simon Okelo, and you're watching Diaspora Connect. We are inside Cafe Avol on Rainier and Holy. I'm sitting here with my brother Ahmed Alabaca. He's a songwriter, producer, singer, composer, extraordinaire. What else did I not say about you that is dope that you want people to know?
Well, thank you for having me.
Of
Yes, all those things, but also a conductor, arranger, facilitator, all those things.
Man, so I learned, I connected with Ahmed through Lily, who is deeply involved with Intiman Theater, where Kenju, was groomed in his acting capacity here in Seattle. And you guys are working on a very interesting play.
Yes.
Could you just walk us through this play?
Sure. The play is called The Events, and it kind of explores the. Let me back up a little bit. So The Events is about a mass shooting that happened in Norway, but it kind of explores the psyche of the killer through community. There's two roles. There's the choir director, Claire, and then there's the boy. But the boy plays several different roles within the play. But then there's also a choir because it takes place in a community center with a community choir, and it really just kind of explores the psyche of the killer, the psyche of a person in the community who was affected by this shooting. So it's a really deep and it's a heavy play. So I recommend everyone to come and see it. Intiman is doing something very cool. It's free for the public.
When is it happening?
It opens July 18th and closes August 10th at the Erickson Theater in Capitol Hill. So it's a wonderful play. It's very heavy, and it really tackles. I mean, it's relevant for our country because we have mass shootings all the time. But for Norway to have a mass shooting was really unusual, but it's interesting how it parallels with a lot what's going on here in this country and how we tend to deal with or approach the shooter. Being that the shooter is a white nationalist in the play, so we tend to approach them differently in this country when it comes to when they enact violence on our community. We tend to approach them in this somewhat compassionate way instead of other ways. But not to give too much away of the play. It's really interesting. There's a play. There's a chorus that sings during the play. I'm the music director for the play, so I've been arranging music for it, and been arranging rehearsals with various choirs in the area. So that's been exciting. Working with new artists and just community choruses is a very interesting and fun experience. So I'm really excited to be here to do that and be able to put whatever knowledge and talent I have or expertise, whatever you want to call it. I'm very grateful to be able to partner with Intiman and talk about all of it and be a part of all of it. And I'm not from Seattle, I'm from California, so it's really nice to be here. So thank you all for welcoming me here. Sorry.
Fantastic. So the first time we connected over the phone, we talked for a while, and one of the things that stuck with me was how in the summer you travel to different cities and work with groups of African Americans to create music and really around big choirs. And could you just share a little bit more about that?
Well, I work a lot in classical music as a conductor and as a composer. So a lot of the times, if you notice, you can go to. I was kind of shocked to see such a diverse orchestra with the Seattle Symphony, to be honest, because Seattle itself is especially downtown, is not as diverse as as one would assume. But it was really nice to see, like my friend Damar, he's the principal flutist for the Seattle Symphony, and he's black, and you never see that, and so that was really awesome to see that. But I've been involved with different festivals and have a lot of friends who play all over the world with different artists, and they're all African American for the most part, but mostly people of color who are classically trained musicians, and you don't see us as ensembles. You kind of see us peppered in here and there. So I've been lucky to be a part of certain festivals. There's the Color of Music Festival that's run by Lee Pringle. There's the Sphinx organization in Detroit, where they bring classical music to young kids that are of color. And they have a huge organization and a huge event called Sphinx Connect, where anyone in the classical arts or classical music world, we all kind of just come to Detroit in the coldest month, February, and which is not ideal, but whatever. I'm from California, and I mean, I lived in New York, and I have never felt cold like this. But anyways, I used to live in New York, and it's pretty much every person of color, primarily black folks though, come to Detroit, and it's a 4-day conference, and we just talk about all of the goings on in the classical world. And we have a competition where there's a junior and senior competition where there's solo violinists and solo cellists and solo violists, and they play major concertos, and they win. The senior, if you win first place in the senior competitions, $50,000. That's here, $50,000. Go buy something. It's great. And then there's Gateways, which is in Rochester, New York, with Lee Kuntz, and that's just another festival where musicians just kind of just descend on Rochester, and they just play all this beautiful music. And every one of it in the orchestra is of color. There's chamber concerts, there's full orchestral concerts. The conductors are usually black or Latino, but it's really an amazing organization, Gateways. So if you've ever wanted to see people of color play classical music, those are 3 places where. There's also another orchestra that I worked with in Southern California called the Southeast Symphony, which is the oldest orchestra in the United States that is of color. It started out as an all-black orchestra, but now it's a multicultural orchestra. LA is very diverse. And the one thing about this orchestra is it really represents the diversity of Los Angeles. And so it was a real honor to work with them. Hopefully I get the opportunity to work with them again. So we're out here when we play, play, I have friends who play in all those festivals and also tour with Beyonce, you know what I mean? And play, my friend Matt Jones, who's an arranger, he did, Kirk Franklin's latest album. He did the string arrangements for Kirk Franklin's latest album, John Legend's, Christmas album, and PJ Morton's Grammy award-winning album. He did all the string arrangements, and everyone in the orchestra was black from Chicago. And so we're out here and we do it. So
the black community, the African American community, is amazing musically, and a lot of it obviously is because of their heritage, the African heritage. And one of the things I'm learning as an African immigrant that moved to the US is that there is a fear that was instilled in Black Americans about Africa and about African people. That, if you go there, you will get malaria. If you go there, something will happen to you. What is your biggest fear of Africa?
I have no fears of Africa. One, but not to say that I've never had fears of Africa.
Right.
I had concerns before because the way they kind of paint this broad picture of Africans here is like, oh, send money to Africa because everyone's poor and everyone's dying and everyone has, and everyone, it's just this poor continent, and it's like. And so I always had that image in my head as a child. And so thankfully through just friends and community, that was kind of beaten out of me and through words, and sometimes some people had to hold me down, and that's okay because it was all with love. And but no, so for me personally, I've never had a fear of Africa because I've always, I've never, when it comes to things like disease, you can get disease anywhere.
Yeah.
So I don't really, when it comes to violence, I kind of grew up in violence. So I didn't really think about those things. I'm like, well, it couldn't be as bad as what I grew up in. Yeah. So what's the big deal? Right. Which brings me to this. I have the fortunate opportunity to go to Rwanda this year.
When?
We're raising money to go. So my friend Saheksham, she's writing and directing a film based off of a young man in Rwanda. His name is Emmanuel. He's a musician, and she's written this beautiful story, and it ties in the genocide and everything. But I'm going to be scoring it, and so we're all going there, and her. Along with the work that I do with Lily, this community-based work, we are going to go there and.
Are you going with Lily too?
No, Lily isn't going. But I'm tying in why a bigger point that I'm going to make. Right. This idea of community engagement and community work. It's instead of Saheksham goes there and films and does all, and then she comes back to LA and shows me the film. I write the music and have people in LA perform the music. She goes, Ahmed, no, if we're gonna be there and write a film about Rwanda and this beautiful human being, we're gonna use his music. We're gonna record it there. We're going to use musicians there, and so that all the money that we get to go there, the money goes back into that community. But that's such an easy thing to do.
Right.
It's so easy to do that, and
it's easier said than done.
Right. But I think for us, at least for me and my friend Saheksham, and then the work that me and Lily do. It's easy for us to look beyond ourselves and go into when we go into a community, we go in with an open heart, a humble heart, and an understanding heart, understanding that we're here in your space. We're here and you're not only giving us your time, you're blessing us with your time. And so we don't take it for granted, and we don't take advantage of that because we're not owed that. We're not so we're coming in here asking just being as kind as we can for your generosity. And so you can't have these other elements come in. Oh, I went to this school in New York, and I went to here, and this is how it's done. It's like, no, we're going to do it the way it's done here.
Yeah, you're willing to learn, to be a student.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So this week, the Ghanaian president has been touring the Caribbean and is pushing this agenda of the year of return for African people in the diaspora from the Caribbean to the US globally to go back home. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts about that?
I would love to go. I think it's important because for me personally, because I can't speak for the 13% that makes up the United States, but
13%.
It's not a very large number, but
something.
It is something, but it's significant in the sense that we our stamp on pop culture, food culture, music, and athletes and all the athleticism and all that sports. Sports. We have, and when I say we, I mean people of color. But we have this to have such a small percentage
Yeah,
compared to
dominating everything.
we kind of in a sense dominate a lot of things, but we don't always get the credit for it. When we do it, it's like, oh, that's great. But when someone else sings soul music, or someone else dunks a ball a little harder, or someone else runs a little faster, it's like this magnificent thing. And I'm like, and that's great, and everyone should be celebrated. I'm not saying that no one should be celebrated, but I'm just gonna
More
stop.
needs to be
Yeah,
done.
I'm gonna leave it there. I don't want to go into a thing, but I do feel like that's important because I don't feel connected to Africa outside of my skin color, and I think it's important for Black Americans to have a connection to something. And
Even food, I was talking to a few elders. Kenju and I have been teaching Kiswahili classes to a group of a cohort of about 10 to 12 African American elders. And, through them I was learning that you don't actually have to even go to Africa. You can learn Kiswahili here. You can eat African food here. Just find a way of being in Africa even from here, because the economy, the finances don't allow everybody to be able to go.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
There are ways you can fulfill that.
But there's that idea, though. I have friends who have. I went to Ireland when I was in college, and we sang. I was in a choir, and we did. And I had many friends actually. They were able to go see their family crest in Ireland. I don't know where I'm from. You know what I mean? I know I'm from the United States, and people can trace it all back and go back and see. And all that jazz, but I would love to know what region or what country, or I can, if I can't go there, I can say, this is what I've heard. Oh, you look like you're North African. I don't know what that means. You know what I mean? Yeah. I have no idea. And this was, I remember it was a white gentleman. He's like, oh, you're definitely from North Africa. You're from like Morocco or something. I was like, I don't know. No, you're definitely from there. I'm like, well, you would know better than I would, because you've probably been there. From how much do you want your latte or not? And it's in that type of setting where you don't get to have such a combative argument with them. You just have to say, okay, sir, here's your latte, extra hot, get out of here, because I don't really know. I have no idea. So that sense of origin, I want to know where I'm from, instead of saying, oh, a lot of slaves came from West Africa. But there's so many places in West Africa.
It's funny.
I want to know.
It's funny, I was in a big gathering earlier this week where I met somebody that told me that he's from St. Vincent in the Caribbean, and his ancestors were actually slaves from Kenya, and they were in a ship full of slaves, and they basically overpowered the captain and the people that were running this ship. And once they took over the ship, the closest piece of land that they got to was St. Vincent. And so they intermarried with the local people. And, when people were introducing themselves at this gathering where I met this guy, people introduced themselves, and then he was next to me. Then I said, oh, my name is so-and-so, I'm from Kenya. He stood up. It was like, I've never met somebody from Kenya, but this is my story. I was like, wow, it's really powerful to know your roots and to be able to identify it. And with that, I just want to thank you for talking to me today.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And of course, I want you to look at that camera.
Oh, I said I was going to do it, and I didn't do it. I'm just kidding. Hey, it's been wonderful. Community is very important. We can move the world and change the world with numbers. You can't do it by yourself. So thank you for having me. Of course. Please subscribe to One Vibe TV, YouTube. You know what to do.
Excellent. Thank you all for watching.